From the Income Protection Journal, you're listening to the Income Protection Journal podcast with Jamie Fleischner.
My guest today is my sister, Annalisa Cleland. Annalisa has been helping individuals, families, and business owners and employees protect their financial futures since 2004. As an independent insurance broker, she works with multiple highly rated insurance carriers, providing objective guidance and customized solutions for life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance, and health insurance for clients throughout the country. In addition to her independent brokerage practice, Annalisa partners with MassMutual to offer innovative worksite benefit solutions for employers. Through these programs, employees have access to valuable financial protection products, many of which are available without traditional medical underwriting. She also works with businesses to implement executive benefit strategies designed to attract, reward, and retain top talent while enhancing overall employee financial wellness. What 22 years of those client conversations has taught her about how working professionals actually buy income protection is what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so first of all, explain what are worksite benefits.
Worksite benefits are not that different from what you can purchase as an individual, but it is offered through the employer. The biggest difference is that these worksite benefits do not have to pass traditional underwriting. And the ones that I offer through Mass are portable. So if somebody is not healthy and they get a policy, they can take it with them when they leave. It doesn't necessarily mean disabled, as you know, but if they're not healthy, they can keep the policy for the term of the policy with disability, or, in the case of life insurance, they can keep it for life.
So what products are offered? Is it just, you mentioned disability and life. Are those the primary?
Disability and life. There's a couple supplemental, critical illness and accident.
And how do people know if it's even available to them?
They would probably have to ask the benefits administrator if it is something that they can qualify for. It's not offered to businesses. I mean, we can go down to 10 for the guaranteed issue life insurance.
10 lives.
10 lives.
10. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With disability, we can go down to 5 as long as there's a group policy in place with it.
So if you're a business owner and you're thinking about offering this, what do you tell the business owner from their perspective in terms of what you can offer their employees?
I mean, right now it's so hard for business owners to keep employees because everybody wants to go off on their own, to have the freedom to do what they want, where they want, when they want. And, they can't always get the benefits. So it is a great way to attract and maintain if you are paying for enhanced benefits for somebody.
So when you approach a business owner and you tell them about this, is this something that is, if they sign up for this, is it required for them to cover all of their employees?
No. Well, it depends on the product, but a lot of them are voluntary. There are situations where the employer can say, let's just say it's a group, they can pay for, I think, down to $10,000 for life insurance. And then the remainder above that is voluntary. Or
so they're offering it, but the employee has to pay for it?
They can, or the employer can pay for it as well.
Okay. Now, if the employer's paying for it, it becomes taxable, correct?
It depends.
Okay.
Depends on
and then are there situations where an employer just says, I only want to cover my top level employees? Can they carve it out? Can they individually select?
They can carve out, executives, managers.
Or partners C-suite. Of a firm or things like that. Right. Okay.
When they carve it out, they have to have the 10.
Okay. So there's a minimum number of policies or number of lives?
Yes. So we can't do a group of 2.
Okay. So is there like a certain size company that would be ideal for something like this?
I mean, right now we're looking between 50 and 400 lives.
Okay. Employees at a company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so have to sign up.
So for an employer, they're offering this. What do these policies look like? Let's say it's a law firm and there's 100 employees at the law firm and you approach the head of the law firm and talk to them about this. What would this look like?
I mean, it's going to depend on what they want to offer. It's going to depend on their budget, the employee makeup. Are they, where their income lies? So when we talk about disability, for example, because we are working with a law firm right now, and to do the guaranteed issue disability, they have to have a group plan in place. So as an example, the group plan that we have covers up to $2,000. Well, most attorneys, that's not going to help protect their income enough. So that's when we put in the policy through Mass that supplements that, and we can get them up to 65%.
So is there a cap on these worksite policies? Meaning, is there a maximum amount of benefit?
No.
Okay.
Well, not for the disability. We can go up on that. For the life, it is $1 million.
$1 million of death benefit.
Mm-hmm. And with the life, it's a great product. I really like it because it's called a chronic care benefit. It works similar to a long-term care policy, where if somebody would qualify for long-term care, such as, be unable to do 2 of the 6 ADLs or cognitive diagnosis, it is going to accelerate 75% of the death benefit payable in cash, minus fees, but it will pay that out immediately. They do not have a waiting period, nor do they have any stipulations on how they must use it. They don't have to show receipts or, use certain providers like a long-term care policy. So I really like that type of policy. And as like these whole life policies, they do build cash value. So in a sense, that can be considered salary continuation for executives.
Mm-hmm. So maybe walk through a scenario where somebody would benefit from a policy like you mentioned, ADLs, which are activities of daily living. Walk through a scenario where somebody signed up for this and how that would work, that would need it.
Let's just say we'll use the attorney as an example. And let's just say they have the policy and they are diagnosed with a cognitive disorder. And
like dementia or Alzheimer's.
Traumatic brain injury. If they go through something like that, yes, they can go on the disability claim, but that may not be enough. I mean, that's replacing their income. That may not be enough to pay for the care that they need. Mm-hmm. And so this type of policy is going to provide that money to provide that long-term care for them, however it is, whether it's in the home, whether it's in a facility, assisted living, skilled nursing.
And then talk a little more what ADLs mean.
Activities of daily living. So if you need assistance, going to the bathroom, getting up from a chair, being able to feed yourself, shower, those type of things. Just
getting dressed.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody takes a fall even. It could even be somebody who's younger and is in a bad bike accident. Mm-hmm. And they're bedridden for a while.
Yep.
They'd be able to access, how much could they access on this policy?
I don't know the answer to that when it's, not necessarily a permanent. But I mean, I don't know what kind of qualifications if they're looking for, if they're saying, it has to be a permanent or, could they access some of it? But the way the policy is written is 75% of the death benefit.
So for these policies, the disability and the life that they get through their employer for their work site, you mentioned that there's no medical underwriting. So maybe describe what that means and why that's an advantage.
Well, I should say that for the disability, there is no underwriting when you have 5 or more in the group plan in place. For the life insurance, they can purchase $150,000 guaranteed issue. There's an additional $100,000 that is express issue. So they have to be able to answer no to certain conditions. Usually, if you've had treatment in the past 2 years, cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, something like that. And then they can purchase additional. If they purchase at the initial enrollment, then they can purchase additional in the future, regardless of their health. But the way it comes, take my son Sam as an example, type 1 diabetes for 20 years now. And it doesn't impact his ability to perform his job. But I always say insurance companies look at you different than the rest of the world does. And something like this, he could qualify.
So let's use Sam as an example. He works at a firm, and he signs up for his group disability, signs up for his life insurance. Why would he consider getting a worksite policy?
Because it's portable.
And describe what that means.
So it means that when you leave, you take it with you. And you will.
So somebody like him, say he's working at a firm, he signs up for a group policy, and he's uninsurable. He's got type 1 diabetes. So he can sign up for this guaranteed standard issue policy, because I'm talking about the disability, doesn't have to answer any medical questions. And let's say he decides he wants to start his own business or go out on his own. That policy is portable.
Yep.
How
and
much?
He keeps that with him.
And he can keep that. And then are there increase options on that so he can expand that too? Okay. Yeah. So what are the parameters on how much benefit somebody like him would be able to get while he's at the place, and then
it's going to all be a factor of how much group they have in place and his income.
Okay. So let's say he gets a $5,000 supplemental policy and doesn't have to answer medical questions, and he leaves or he moves across the country or whatever. He takes that $5,000 policy with him. How much could that
if he ends up needing more, he's going to have to show proof of income.
But only income, not...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So once you have it, you have it. And with the life insurance that they can get guaranteed issue, the rate is locked in. So it's not going to increase when you get older.
So if he bought it at age 27, it's locked in at age 27, and that's portable too.
Correct.
Okay. So when you're working with these worksite people and you're enrolling it, and there's an audience and you're talking about the benefits, what are some of the questions that those employees have about these products?
I haven't really had any questions yet.
Okay. What are some of the objections people would have? Is it too expensive? I don't ever need it? Or what's the big deal?
I'm sure you hear it too. Everyone thinks they're careful. I don't really need it. Or, talk accident. I don't really need it. I'm careful.
Yeah.
And my response to that is the hospital are full of people that were healthy yesterday and that they were careful.
Yeah.
Nobody schedules an accident.
Yeah, that's very true. I know I talked to a client of mine yesterday who was in a really bad accident filing a claim. And she's like, I am so grateful I had this policy. There were so many times it was so expensive. I thought about canceling it. I'm so glad I didn't, because I never planned on using it. And I just
Nobody plans
on using it. I
know. And they talk about careful. And I mean, you know me, I'm like not exactly a risk taker, but I think I've broken 3 bones just coming downstairs.
Yes, exactly.
It happens, and it's not from being not careful. It just happens. And
well, former gymnasts are known for being clumsy, so there's that.
There you go.
Now, is there a period of time when you have to wait for these policies to be enforced? So let's say, again, Sam comes in, he's diabetic, uninsurable, he signs up for everything knowing it would be hard for him to go get it elsewhere. Is there a period of time he has to wait until
the first premium is paid?
Okay.
You have to be actively at work. So if you were out on a disability claim or you were out disabled, not working on FMLA, no. But you have to be actively at work and pay the claim. And I mean, not pay the claim, pay the premium.
Pay the premium.
But I mean, you pay the premium. Let's just say someone wants to get life insurance before they retire. They pay one premium and they could take it with them.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have had claims where somebody, their first week on the job, they're in accidents or things happen, or they're diagnosed. Yeah. So it seems to me that this is something that would be really beneficial for people, because I tell a lot of people, when you have a policy through your group, that's great. But if you ever leave, you don't get to take it with you. And so one of the drawbacks is, if your health changes, you don't want to be stuck at an employer to keep your benefits.
Right. And I mean, you talk about like attorneys. A lot of times they bounce around between firms, and you don't know, not all firms offer this type of coverage. And a lot of times, you may or may not know, but the group policies are usually taxable. So I mean, I know someone, I talked to him, and he's, oh, I'm fine. I've got a group policy through work. It would pay fine. Well, no, it didn't. And they're on claim. And because their benefit, 60% of their income, but it's taxable, they said it's equivalent to making minimum wage now.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think one of the biggest objections that I get from people is, my employer will take care of me, or I already have a policy through my group. I don't need anything individual. I've got a great benefits package. What do you say to those people? Do you think they actually know what the group provides?
No, they don't. They don't understand that there is a gap. And that's, in my opinion, what the benefit of worksite in terms of the disability is that there's a gap. And, we were just talking about another person that is a pilot, and they have some disability through their work. And it would leave them with about a $300,000 deficit, meaning what the group paid, he would make, it would be 300,000 more or less than what he would need if he were properly insured, getting 65% of his income.
So maybe walk us through that kind of scenario, explaining it to somebody who's never heard of this before. What was he making? What did the group provide? And then in real terms, what would happen?
Let's just use an example. Right now, we have a law firm that we're dealing with, and their group policy is $2,000 a month. Well, if the principal is making $500,000, that should be what? I can't even do the math on that. What it would be monthly, but it's a heck of a lot.
So let's call it $40,000 a month. Yeah.
Right. But they're getting $2,000 through the group. So if you're saying,
that's really low for a group policy.
Right.
That's really low. But let's say a typical group policy, that's 60% up to $10,000 a month, or $15,000.
That's up to $10,000. I mean, I've seen one group that had up to 15, but other than that, I've never seen any.
I've seen some up to 20 even, some 15,000, some up to 20, like hospital systems, sometimes they do. So, but when people come to me and they talk to me, oh, well, I have a group policy, I think there's several things that they need to know. First of all, the employer's paying for it. It's going to be taxable. That's first and foremost. And the higher your income, the more you're paying in taxes. So the replacement is less. Number two, there's caps. So if you're getting, 60% up to 10,000 or 15,000, usually the threshold is around 200,000 or 250 to 300,000 of income. If you're making more than that, you're capped out. Yeah, because it's really intended for more rank and file employees. And then three, they require you to be completely, totally disabled, not working. So again, if you're able to, if the company comes back and says, oh, we heard you're, working from home doing this or that, they may not actually pay. And then the fourth thing about group, what a lot of people aren't aware of, is they will require you to file with Social Security.
Yep.
And Social Security, typically, I think, they can take up to 9 months for them to even process your claim. And then they typically just turn you down. Right. And then you have to I actually had a client of mine who filed a claim through her work and through me that mine paid. And she got turned down by Social Security. And she was so sick, like she was in really, really bad shape. And her employer denied her group policy because they said, you didn't file for Social Security. She said, I did file for Social Security. They're like, well, even though you were turned down, you have to apply 3 times before we decide we'll pay for you. And she was a year into her disability.
And it reduces the benefit. So if you have a $3,000 benefit and Social Security pays, they're going to pay out less.
Yes. So let's talk. So you're working with a lot of, professional organizations, employers. I work with a lot of physicians. We talk about own occupation. Is own occupation, in your opinion, still important for non-physicians? And if so,
It
what does it mean and
depends
why?
on it depends on the position, we just had this discussion this week, and it's more like physicians, they have a certain task, like a dermatologist is going to do one thing or a surgeon is going to do one thing. But if you are working at a desk, say being CPA, I mean, you're still working at a desk. You can't necessarily go and be a consultant and have it be considered own occupation. There could be some issues with that. So, own occupation is very important in many circumstances, but not all, if your skills are transferable to something else.
Yeah. See, I think it's still, even if you're an attorney or somebody who just sits at somebody sits at a desk and does their work, I still think having own occupation is better than not. And in my opinion, it's because I wouldn't want the insurance company determining what you can and cannot do.
Right.
So
right.
if you're an attorney and you're doing litigation and you need to show up in court and something happens and you can't show up in court, I want to make sure that person is paid properly, even if they can write briefs from home or, they're bed bound maybe.
I do think attorneys is one instance where own occupation is important to have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I even look at, I know somebody had a brain tumor who's working on Wall Street. And so that, you'd think, oh, he just needs, to be able to sit at his desk. Yes, but he had some cognitive issues.
Right. Yeah, you can't.
And you're going through, you're in and out of the hospital getting treatments. You're not going to be able to do any work.
Not to mention cognitive, you cannot, you can't be making decisions with people's money.
Yeah, exactly.
Nor should you really be, I don't know, teaching or anything like that. So, I mean, whether or not that was own occupation, they fit the definition of disability in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the side of disability insurance almost no buyer ever sees, what happens at the time of claim, and the broker decisions that determine whether a check actually shows up. Welcome back. I am here with Annalisa Cleland, a working broker with more than 22 years, working with individuals, families, and small business owners. And we're talking about what income protection actually looks like once life gets involved. So how do you, when you're working with a lot of these business owners and executives, what is their perception of disability insurance? Are they familiar with it, or is it just another thing?
I mean, I think maybe you see the same thing, but when you bring up disability I think physicians learn in med school and residency the importance of that. But just the regular person, they look at disability as somebody that's in a wheelchair. They don't understand that there are different things that would make you be disabled in terms of performing your job.
And so how do you, maybe explain a conversation that you've had with somebody in that exact scenario, because again, yes, it's so obvious. We always use, a surgeon, if they hurt their hands, or a dentist, it's so obvious, but it doesn't mean that people who aren't surgeons and dentists aren't relying on their income. So how do you have those conversations?
A better way that I like to phrase it is, have you insured your income? Or, paycheck protection insurance. I think when you call it disability, they think of somebody that, the word, we always hear about disability services or, ADA and stuff like that. They don't realize that disability looks different depending on the occupation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so typically I find that people in those kinds of scenarios, they typically have some kind of connection to somebody, something happened to somebody that they knew, and they had sort of an aha moment. So meaning maybe they had a spouse or a family member or somebody that was in a bad accident, and they thought, oh my gosh, what would happen?
Yeah. And I mean, I just say to them, you probably have insurance on your cell phone, but you don't have it on your biggest asset. And your biggest asset is your ability to earn an income, especially when you're younger. That is your biggest asset. They might say, I don't have any assets. I have debt. I need to pay down the debt. Great. Well, what happens if you can't work? Your parents going to pay that for you when you're living in their basement?
And what do they say?
Well, it's kind of expensive right now. And I get that a lot, and I understand that people's budgets are tight, but we all make room for what we prioritize.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I find it amazing that people don't hesitate to get Apple Care on their iPhone when the reality is you can replace the phone. I mean, it's not a huge expense to replace a phone. You replace the phone every 2 or 3 years anyway, or whatever.
Mhm.
But most people, if they can't afford disability insurance, they can't afford to not have it because they're so
Right.
reliant on their income.
Right. And I mean, I don't know. I think, with the younger kids and social media and everything, they see all these GoFundMe's. I mean, you've seen them too. Oh, so and so can't work. Let's throw up a GoFundMe for them. And if you actually look at it, and I have sometimes, and I just think to myself, well, why didn't they have life insurance when, it's a young parent that passes away unexpectedly or, cannot work. And if you look at the GoFundMe that these people are sharing and you actually click on it, they're not donating, they're just sharing it.
Hmm.
It might be shared, 10,000 times and they might have raised $500. That's a drop in the bucket.
Hmm.
I almost want to say, why don't you go fund me your premium? Because,
Exactly. Or
you
for the
know,
rest of the family. So if another family member goes down, they're insured.
right,
Yeah.
right,
I know it's almost shameful that, I mean, I wouldn't want to have my community, do a GoFundMe if something happened tragically. I mean,
right. And I mean, as you know, for a young person, life insurance, if you can qualify, isn't expensive.
yeah, exactly.
That's the
So
big if.
what do most of these policies cost? Are the costs different for the work site than any other individual? Are there discounts?
There are some discounts, and if you're talking about the disability, it's a group of five. It is going to depend on their rate class, their income, their because the work site disability is it's not a group, but it's
It's a cluster.
traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a cluster of five or more. So it's almost like individual, but they're written guaranteed issue. But so there's that. But the life insurance, there's a lot more factors. So it is guaranteed issue, but it is also underwritten depending on the size of the group. An 800-person group is going to look a lot different than a group of 25.
So explain the difference between the what that means for an 800-person group versus a 25-person group.
I mean, they're going to look at their occupation. They're going to look at, the income, the age of the group. I mean, I was able to get a quote on an 800-person group. They didn't even need the ages just because it is so big. And
So they
in
can
that
spread the
sense,
risk. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, spread the risk. But, a smaller group, we need more information.
Yeah. So for the life insurance, they do need to have medical information.
No, they
Oh,
don't need medical information, but it has to be for the life insurance, it has to meet certain criteria.
and
And
what's
they
that criteria?
typically want at least 25 for life. We
Okay.
can go down to 10 if that is employer paid, because then they're guaranteed the premiums.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I mean, they don't really want anything under 25, just to be able, like you said, to spread the risk.
So if in a group policy, if the employer's paying the premiums, the benefits are taxable
Mhm.
to the employee at the time of claim. On these worksite benefits, you mentioned there are times where either the individuals can pay or the group can pay. How does that impact the taxability to the person?
I haven't gotten there yet. So I don't,
Okay, I can
I
answer
mean,
this.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can answer. So there's ways to go. So if it,
Well, right, the section 162.
yes. So so I have a couple where if the employer wants to provide this as a benefit and say,
Mhm.
we're going to provide this, we're going to pay the premiums,
Mhm.
and they want to get the deduction, they can certainly do so. But if they directly pay the premiums to the insurance company, those
Mhm.
benefits are taxable
Right,
to the employee. One of the ways around it is they can set up a bonus structure. So if the premium
right,
is $2,000 a year, they can bonus that to the employee, and then the employee turns around and pays the premium with after
right.
tax dollars.
But the thing is, a lot of work site have to be payroll deducted. So that's why I don't know that exact answer. And then it's also going to depend on when you pass away. So let's just say somebody buys it, they leave, they still pay the premium, and they pass away 10 years later, then it wouldn't be taxable, correct? Even though.
Correct, because I think there's a 2-year look back. So
Right,
if they've been
there's a
paying
lot
it for
of
2 years, yeah.
factors. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
And if it's payroll deducted, they can set it up where the employee can pay the
after
premiums
tax.
through their payroll. So they can voluntarily pay those premiums and it comes out of their paycheck, but then they can do it to make sure it's tax-free for them. If you had to bet, out of every 10 working professionals who come to you already insured in some way, how many are catastrophically underprotected when you actually look at the numbers?
9.5 out of 10.
So maybe explain that. So people come to you and they say, oh, I'm totally insured.
Yeah, they think they are. They have health insurance, or they've got insurance on their car, or, they have life insurance, and they might have a $100,000 policy and they're 25.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what do you do in those scenarios? How do you bring up other types of insurance?
It depends on the person, because if they're coming to me for an ACA policy, it really depends on the scenario. Because if they've just lost their job and they've lost their income and they are panicking, it's not the time to bring up spending more money because they can't afford it. And I just feel that if you push somebody too hard and they purchase out of obligation, they're going to cancel during the free look period. I would rather talk to them about it, let them know this is what it's going to cost. When you are ready, we could talk.
Let's say a young family or young couple comes to you. They're 30 years old, just got married. They just needed to get some life insurance. That kind of scenario.
What do I recommend?
And they're both employed. They're just they just bought their first house. They just got married.
I mean, I look at what sort of debt do they have, student loan and mortgage, what their income is, what their plans are, and we try to replace what they have, because if they're 30 and they're looking at working for another 35 years, we take what is your income. 30 years of your income is what you should be getting, but at least 10 times your income plus debt.
Yeah. Now, what about people that come to you where the spouse is not working, like a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad? What do you generally recommend for them?
$1 million. Easily. And, I had a scenario recently that this guy was referred to me for, health insurance because he had it through his spouse. And there was a horrible accident and the spouse and child died. And they were obviously disabled because they were unable to function. It was so traumatic. And I said, well, what kind of life insurance did you have on the spouse? Well, just what they had through work, because they were not the breadwinner. And I get that a lot of times. Well, they don't need it. They don't have any income. And you think about it and you say, okay, well, if your spouse dies, first of all, if they're a stay-at-home mom, they might not have income, but it's going to cost a heck of a lot of money to hire, cleaning, shopping, childcare, taking the dog to the vet or whatever. It's going to cost a lot of money to replace that. Not to mention, you are probably going to be taking time off of work to grieve and be there for your kids. So don't discount the fact that they're not bringing in an income when it comes to life insurance for the non-working or lower income spouse. There's a lot more to it than just replacing that income.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of economic value, even if they're not actively working, for sure.
Right.
And I think that's a huge overlooked area for life insurance. I think a lot of people just assume, oh, well, I earn enough for the family. But what they're doing provides a lot of value, and they are going to be expensive to replace.
Right. And not to mention, you're going to be taking time off of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there might be more therapy bills for the kids, and there's going to be a lot. Yeah. All right. What is your take What is a take you have about disability insurance industry from the broker side of the table that most of your peers would quietly disagree with?
Oh, this is a good one. There is a life insurance company that I don't want to say the name, but it has our country's name in the name of the
Mm-hmm.
company. And those people that sell that company, they say, well, you don't need disability. You just need this plan has living benefits. And, it pays out if they have heart attack, stroke, cancer, 10 different things it's going to pay out for. And I always say to them, but what's it going to do if somebody works on the phone and they lose their ability to talk? Or, I had a client that lost their voice for like years. They could not do their job on the phone. Your great life insurance, overpriced term life insurance with living benefits is not going to help them. It's not going to fit the definition of disability. If a surgeon loses their finger, your great life insurance is not going to help them for that situation, but they are unable to do surgery.
Yeah. I also think if you're working with somebody and they obviously only work for one company, they have a financial incentive to only write that one. And they may not even be aware of all of the other products available to people.
I've had this conversation with them many times because the brokers are very pushy and they're like, you should sell this. I'm like, I'm not going to sell it because I don't feel like it's in people's best interest.
Yeah.
But they think, like you said, they think it's the latest, greatest thing ever. And it's I always say like they try to shove everybody into that same hole, and
Yeah.
it's not the way it goes.
So do you have clients who come to you that have this product and think that they're covered?
Yes.
And how do you describe it? Just like you said?
Yeah. I mean, there are many ways that you can become disabled that don't have to deal with heart attack, stroke, cancer, ALS, something catastrophic that is going to prohibit you from doing your job. What about the one that has a severe concussion and cannot be on his computer screen?
Mm-hmm.
I've had a person who was a CPA that became disabled that way.
Wow.
They missed tax season because they could not be on a screen because of a severe concussion. Your life insurance isn't going to pay out for that.
No. Yeah, and that's something specific, but that's probably more common than we realize. I've had people with severe migraines. And I think, if you have migraines, you're not supposed to be on a screen. I'd say most people now to do their jobs need to be on a screen unless you're, out in the field in construction. So,
and if you're in construction and you lose a limb, that policy isn't going to pay out.
Or a bad back. That's a big one for them. Yeah, exactly. All right. If you could put one line on a billboard for every working professional in America about protecting their income, what would the billboard say?
Probably, you're going to insure your car, you're going to insure your phone, you should insure your paycheck.
Right. What is the single most uncomfortable truth about how disability insurance actually gets sold that nobody in your industry wants to say out loud?
I guess I don't really understand that.
I guess it has to do with trustworthiness. I think there's a lot of people out there that give a lot of misinformation. So maybe rephrase it. What is the misinformation from people in the insurance industry that put out there about disability insurance?
Oh, it was Josh that told me, and I found this statistic very interesting, that of people that are licensed to be able to sell disability, 92% don't.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think, there's this misconception that whole life is the be all end all and you can use that for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the biggest misconception because I feel like, there's 8% of us as brokers that are selling disability. It's such a foundation for, financial wellness. If you don't have your income, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah. You're not going to even be able to save for retirement, let alone pay down your debt or anything else. Absolutely. It's foundational. Right. Yeah, that's the thing that I see too, that why is it that you're licensed to do it and you don't even talk to people in the industry? And I think that financial planners are the ones that are really not doing their job by bringing it up to their clients. in my opinion.
And I understand that maybe they don't because it's uncomfortable, because people don't want to sell something that they're not comfortable talking about or not comfortable doing, which is understandable. But, when I'm talking with financial advisors for Worksite, I tell them, I can do this for you. You can give me your business owners. I can take care of it. I'll split commission with you. Mm-hmm. So if you can't do it yourself, find somebody that can do it to service your clients, whether you're, a financial advisor or you're focused on something else. That you can always split commission. If you're not comfortable selling something, let somebody that is well-versed in it do it.
Exactly. Just outsource it. Yeah.
It's always about protecting the client. I mean, that should be everyone's number one goal.
Exactly. Okay. If every one of your past clients could go back to the day before their claim and tell their earlier self one thing, what do you think they would say?
I should have bought it.
Yeah. Should have bought more. Yeah.
Or I should have bought it, period. I mean, that very good friend of mine that you know, and when we talked to her about disability, gosh, it's been 20 years ago. And do you remember what she said?
She actually went, I remember the scenario. She came to me, bought a policy, and then got engaged and decided, you know what? My spouse is going to take care of me. I don't need this anymore. And then you go on, what happened?
Well, I mean, he said, you don't need it because if something happens, I'll take care of you. Mm-hmm. And soon after they were married, something did happen, and she was diagnosed with multiple autoimmune conditions and went from making about $200,000 a year as a very successful realtor. This was back in the 90s, late 90s.
Which is equivalent to probably $400,000 or $500,000 now. Yeah.
Right. And she spent the first year after diagnosis on the couch. She could barely get up. And she has lost out on millions as a result. So not only
her entire career, to this day, she still struggles.
Oh yeah, I talked to her yesterday, and she's just was saying how it's a struggle for her because she is so exhausted. She can hardly get out of bed some days, and her husband has had his ups and downs with his career, and he's probably not making what he was at that time either. And it really, the not getting it has really impacted their family financially. And she said to me, you need to tell everybody my story to know that, you got to get it.
Yeah.
Because she can't get it now. And she's working as an independent rep, so she can't even get Worksite.
Yeah. 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 She's a poster child for the wrong decision, because she was so close. We had the paperwork, everything was ready to go. So, and even for her, just protecting the fact that she was healthy. So I think the other thing is, when you're in your 20s and you get your first job, even if you have something through your work, get a supplemental policy or get something through the Worksite, have something portable, because what you have in your 20s is your health and your insurability. Right. You may not file the claim until your 30s or 40s. But
you may
if your
not
health
be making
changes,
that
you're
much
done.
money. You may not be making that much money at the time, but you can always increase the value of your policy.
Yeah. But if you're young, it's also less expensive. It's not as much to get it. So you just get it. And then, if your health changes, you're fine. Mm-hmm. So I agree. Well, thank you to Annalisa for coming on today and sharing your experience. I think learning more about Worksite, I think, is really beneficial. I think for people that are out there that are business owners, I think there's a lot that they can offer their employees. I think if you're an employee and your group is not enough and maybe you're uninsurable, you can also maybe talk to the people in the company about putting together these plans for you, and it can benefit a lot of other people. And then I also appreciate you sharing your stories of people that didn't get the insurance that they needed to and the people that were grateful that they did. So thank you.
From the Income Protection Journal, you've been listening to the Income Protection Journal podcast with Jamie Fleischner.